The biggest killer of entrepreneurship is people that quit after their first L. You think, oh, I didn't sell enough. I did whatever. I'm not cut out for this. When you have failed and done enough things like you and me, those things don't stop you anymore. It's like, all right, how do I do it better? Let me come back and but so many people are stopped because they think that first L means they're not cut out for it. I've taken more L's than so many other people have tried. Like, these are not businesses I started when I was 16. It was learning, screwing up. And that's how you learn.
Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners, fans, subscribers, and friends. We talk about a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, societal, and cultural perspective. We believe that in tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. So subscribe to our channel, rate, review, and let us empower you. What's up, friends? If you're anything like me, you realize that eating healthy meals supercharges your productivity and gives you a clear mind so that you can solve more problems at work or in your business. Smile More Meal Prep Service lets you choose from a variety of healthy food options that will fit your dietary needs while putting a smile on your face, so you can stop stressing about eating healthy throughout the week and buying lunches, because Smile More Meal Prep has got your back. And if you use the promo code EMPOWER, you'll receive 15% off your order. So click the link in the show notes, order your healthy, delicious meals, relax, and smile more. Welcome to Empower You podcast. My name is Kidboy Cooper, and I am so glad that you are here. For today's topic, for our conversation for today, we have an excellent guest who is going to provide us with a lot of really great, not only perspective, but lived experience in regards to our topic, which is school necessary? Now, if you've been following the show, we have been going through the process of examining and opening up dialogue around education in the United States. If you're not in the United States, this is just something you may want to think about. In the United States, there are a lot of millennials and Gen Z students who are looking to re-enroll in school or who are going to be going into higher ed institutions. And so as this is happening, this trend is happening in the United States, simultaneously industries are completely blowing up, right? Meaning everything is changing. Everything is morphing into something else. We have new jobs, new applications, new platforms that are coming out of everywhere, and the educational systems can't keep up. And so what I want to do, what I'm doing here, is giving us an opportunity to really look at this idea of education from a variety of perspectives so that we can make informed decisions about what we do next post-pandemic and leading into the next 3-4 years, right? This is not an anti-school or pro-school anything. This is a conversation about what education really is, what it looks like, and the role that it plays in our society today. The person who's going to be speaking with us today is the CEO and founder of Founder Spark, which is an organization that is dedicated to introducing new entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs into the business and business startup community here in Fort Wayne. They've put together massive events and highlighted some of the most inspiring, vibrant brands here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And he's helped hundreds of students learn the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of entrepreneurship through courses and programs that he's provided over the years. And I'm just really excited to have him here with us. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our guest, Aaron Robles. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm so glad we get a chance to do this. I'm pumped.
Thank you so much for being here, man. I mean, it's awesome to have a moment to really just rap with you a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Every time we see each other, it's like coming and going, a quick catch up, and then I'll see you next time. So it's good for us to like sit down and just chat.
tell us a little bit about what you do, and what drives you in the entrepreneurship space, and then we'll dive into the questions, because we got to get this background story in so that we can really move into this.
And I told you when you sent me the topic, I was like, I'm ready for this. And a major part as to why that's true is because of my story and background, right? So I'll give you kind of like the quick overview. Immigrant from Mexico. Me and my family came to the US when I was about 8 months old. At the time we weren't documented. We didn't, know anything. We came here just to try and get a better life. The place we were from in Mexico, Juarez, very violent place, not a good place to raise kids. So, my parents came here to the US at the age of 5, came here to Fort Wayne, and kind of grew up in the very traditional sense, getting acclimated to this whole new environment. Like my parents and I have never seen snow before. And, we only spoke Spanish. So I learned English when I was 5 at Fairfield Elementary School. And from there, I got super acclimated to just the American life. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older, because of my lack of documentation, I realized I can't get a driver's license. I can't get a job. I can't get this scholarship that I got for school because it was too expensive, and the scholarship was federally funded. So someone with my documentation wasn't able to obtain that. So I started running into all these different barriers, and I'm lucky enough to have gone to Anthos Career Center. It's a vocational school here in Fort Wayne. And at the age of 16, that's where I learned graphic design by this great teacher, Karen Gilly. She's the one who kind of saw the value of my potential and said, here's all the stuff you can do with that, right? Things that my parents just didn't know about. And from there, my journey as an entrepreneur began, because as I tried to go get jobs or go the traditional route, I wasn't able to. So I became an entrepreneur because I had to, because I didn't have any other way. And there kind of started my career of, at some point, working for people, doing my own thing, learning graphic design, web design, marketing, social media, just learning all of these things and collecting knowledge and then putting it together in interesting ways, which now kind of into the present is me running 3 different companies, creating all these great opportunities, connecting and networking with people. So that's just kind of like a quick background as to what I'm about and where I come from.
That's really interesting. So you got forced into entrepreneurship. You had no other option, because at the point where you were at, you had to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Which is where the graphic design came into play, because that's what you were leveraging to get money and start pulling in jobs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and I asked myself, if it wasn't for me going to Anthos, if it wasn't for me being there and meeting that person, because it wasn't just learning design, it was the fact that Ms. Gilly and the other people at Anthos helped me out with opportunities that I didn't know about myself. So I asked myself, if it wasn't for that, what would I have done? Because, imagine you're 18 years old, you just graduated, you can't get a driver's license, you can't work. I had gotten 2 years paid for, full scholarship to the University of St. Francis. I was pumped, went to fill out FAFSA, realized I don't qualify for FAFSA. I don't qualify. That money they said I could get, I can't get it. So I can't work, I can't go to school, I can't drive, I can't move out, I can't get bills in my name. I'm 19, 18, full of potential. What do you do now, right?
Wow.
So if it wasn't for me getting that training at such a young age, and me having these mentors that saw me and said, let's figure something out, there's no way I'd be where I'd be now. And keep in mind, I've been in the US since I was 8 months old. If I go to Mexico, it's what am I gonna do? I'm just as lost as everyone else, because I was raised here. So it was such a crazy juxtaposition in my life as to where do I belong? I don't belong there, but I don't belong here. And what are you gonna do? And that's crazy predicament to be in when you're 18.
Oh yeah. And I think that's one that a lot of 18-year-olds are finding themselves in, right? Because maybe not for in your specific case with immigration and things like that, they still don't have the tools to actually connect the dots. Yeah. Everyone points you at a university or points you at a factory job or some, but that may not be what you individually need. And that's why, you talking about, the instructors you had at Anthos, that's so critical, because those people can at least point you in a direction that is specific for you, not just a direction, but one that's like, listen, Aaron would be good at this. Not like, all y'all go fill out this paperwork. Not like that, like you need to meet this person specifically so that you can start to develop these kind of relationships. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did you go about the whole documentation process? How long did that take you? What was the next step once you started to make these connections and you're like, okay, all right, now I can make some money.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Now what are my game plan after that?
Well, and it was taking it a step at a time, because once I graduated and I realized, I can't go to St. Francis, and then you just kind of start asking yourself what you're going to do. I took a year off from school. Like, I wasn't doing anything except just doing my design stuff, just trying to figure out what I did next. But I ended up enrolling at Ivy Tech there at the time, because I had some private money that was given to me for that. So I did that for a while, but it was really taking it a step at a time. I ended up getting a job at a place called Darlington Holiday Warehouse, and ended up working there, very base level. And then 3 years later into that job, I got promoted to marketing director. And it was crazy because, like, at that point I was still in school. And I had my last semester, and now I was paying for it out of pocket, and I'm upset because, like, half the classes that I had in college had nothing to do with my major. And keep in mind, at this point, I graduated high school certified in all the software with clients in high school with dual credits. And I'm in college talking about, like, hey, here's Photoshop 101, 4-hour classes twice a week. And you know what I'm saying? It killed me. So when they gave me that job offer, they was like, look, we'll promote you, but you can't be in school because this is X amount of hours you need to be with us. So that's kind of where I'm like, all right, I didn't want to make a dumb 18-year-old decision to, like, leave college because I wanted to go get a job. So I talked to Ms. Karen Gilly, and I talked to the department chair at Ivy Tech, and I said, look, here's what they're saying, here's what they're offering me, here's where I'm at, like, what do you think? And I am super grateful because both of those people said, you need to leave school and you need to go do that. Like, and that's what I'm saying. It's like they knew me, like what you were saying earlier. They weren't like, nope, you got to finish. It's like, they're like, no, go do that. That's going to be way better. So I left college feeling great. And then when I was at Darlington, that's when I stopped being a graphic designer, and I started being a creative problem solver who knew design. Because then I learned web development there, and I learned social media there, and I learned all of these tools, and that really opened up my world. But for me, the most educationally beneficial situation I've ever been on is boots on the ground. I don't know how to do this, but I got to figure it out. Me and Google were like this, so like that was such a shaky transition. But like once I did that, it's all history from there, because from there I worked directly with business owners and entrepreneurs. And those are the people that for me were able to teach me so much about life, way more than school did for my specific story, because I had that prior training and because I grew up in an age where Google and YouTube were available. So I'm just super grateful for those next steps.
That's awesome, man. So this topic of is school necessary is kind of right up your alley, because not only do you have some schooling and experience with schooling, but you also understand, like you said, that a lot of education happens boots on the ground. And I think that's the main thing people get hung up on, right? And we discussed this a little bit earlier. I said I think we avoid this topic because we don't want to fully endorse young people betting on themselves. One, because we worry that they're not old enough to understand what they're doing, which is valid, because we're all still learning no matter what age you are, and you just exponentially have more or less to learn. So that's valid. But if we don't encourage them to take bets on themselves, and we encourage them to go the route of schools and institutions, hoping that the validation from that institution is going to add value to them so that others will value them and they will value themselves. I fundamentally have some challenges with that thought process.
Yeah. Well,
and so that's why I think it's just dope that you're here and that we can dive into this, man.
Yeah. And I mean, I told you, like, I'm ready to jump into this because it's not about discrediting or saying don't do this or don't do that. I mean, because you run into the same issue. I can't go on here and tell you what to do or what not to do. The point is, you have to learn to figure it out on your own, right? I always say, I want my doctors going to school. Like, I want my engineers in college, right? And there's certain things where education, college, are absolutely necessary and absolutely beneficial. And, we have to look at college as the benefits is not just the education, but the connections you can make, the people you can meet, the diversity of thought, socializing with people outside of your whatever. Those are all such great benefits, but there's also so many drawbacks of like, how crazy is it that you're having a kid sign this document saying, yeah, I'm gonna pay you the $100,000 back in a few years. And a month ago, they were raising their hand to go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not teaching our kids how to think. We're not teaching our kids how to do anything. You're raising people in such a structured environment that you have to do well in middle school, you have to do well in high school, and then you go to college and you take out a loan, and then at some point you meet someone and then you get the job. Like the American education system was built during times where you went in and you did a job in a factory for the rest of your life. So it's like there's training on like, listen, do the same thing every day, be inside for 8 hours a day, like obey, do like, and we just don't work that way anymore. And the technology, the spike, I mean, right now, podcasting is the most accessible. There's people making millions of dollars on TikTok and YouTube, and there is no way that the education system is keeping up with that, right? Even with college. So it's not necessarily saying don't go to college, but currently the way that high school and college is set up, it's not like at the level of where real life and technology and the world is. So I think there's just got to be this major reform of saying, it's like, okay, how do we integrate into this teaching things? Because if you're in any technical degree, by the time you graduate 4 years later, what you learned year one is irrelevant because the cameras are different, the audio is different. But what we don't teach them is like, how do you do your research? How do you find the best camera? How do you do this? How do you connect opportunities? Yeah. So education has to shift towards a much more big picture, how do we figure this out thing versus memorize these things because they're important, because that just doesn't work anymore.
That's right. So growing up, what was your environment like? Like, were your parents pretty well educated in their own industries? Did they encourage you to go to school and things? What was your environment like in your home life regarding education? Yeah,
so I mean, I think for us, it was such a crazy story because, like I said, my parents were born and raised in Mexico. I mean, they were born in like 68 and things were different there. My mom got an 8th grade education and that was it. My dad got a 6th grade education and that was it. There wasn't a lot of education that they or their family had. So like one of the big reasons why they came to the US was in order to provide us with opportunities they never had. So like my dad, both of my parents came here, like I said, at the time without proper documentation. They're documented now, which I'm super grateful for. They didn't speak the language. They didn't understand the culture. And, at 25 years old, which I didn't realize how crazy it was till I turned 25, I'm like, man, they went to a different country with 2 kids, not knowing anything at the age of 25. And I'll tell you that my dad busted ass for the entirety of the time we were here. Man, I can't remember more than 2 weeks that he went without a job, with no documentation, without knowing the language. But it was like their step up for our family was make sure that they're safe, make sure that they have food and clothing, make sure that they're out there getting an education. So I'm here because of the huge sacrifice my parents made, not because they're like, oh, this is gonna, help you this way. They just knew there was something better. And for me, I take it as such a responsibility to honor that sacrifice, to say, I can't sit here and be mediocre. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta really take things seriously. But my parents were such a huge support. They always when I told them I'm dropping out to do this, they're like, let's do it. When I say, hey, I'm gonna start a business, let's do it. I mean, to be quite honest, I'm 30 now and I'm running 3 businesses. And up till 4 months ago, I was living in my mom's basement. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as a grown man, I moved back with my mom because she was so supportive. And I don't think people realize how important that kind of support is, and what a privilege it is to have parents that are so supportive, because not everyone's parents are. So, whenever I said, hey, I want to do this, or hey, I need to do, let's do it. So I think our immigrant status and story was a big reason why they just they always push, and they didn't have an agenda. They didn't want me to go to a particular college. They didn't have those traditions. It was like, bro, go get smart, go get educated. You tell us. Yeah. So that trust and me wanting to honor their sacrifice and them trusting me made a really great relationship for them to support all the crazy endeavors that I had.
That's really awesome, man. One of the things that strikes me about what you said, it brings up for me your relationship with risk, right? I think one of the big problems that I see, even in myself and others, is our aversion to risk. We never want to take chances. We never want to not be 100% about the next step. And, your parents, based off of the fact that they did immigrate here and that they did take enormous risks to go someplace they never gone before, just because they knew where they were wasn't going to be acceptable. Yeah. Like that amount of bravery, that amount of risk is not something a lot of people can stomach. And so I think even as I'm hearing your story, I'm like, that's because growing up, you were accustomed to having to take risks. Yeah. You were accustomed to having to make the brave, unknown decision. And every time they saw that in you, they were like, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You're living proof that these risks do pay off. So yeah, go do it. Yeah, go after it. I think that's amazing, man. Yeah. For some of us, your home environment can be very sticky, right? Nobody wants to venture out too far because of whatever. Maybe it's your environment, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's just traditional things that your family does. And I think it's really powerful that your parents are so brave and instilled that bravery and risk taking in you, because everything you talk about sounds like risk. Oh my God. It sounds like a good success story to other people. When I hear it, I'm like, bro, you're taking some major risks.
Yeah. And part of it is, you're absolutely right. It was watching my parents and realizing that, look, that's just our hand. You know what I'm saying? We can't not take risks. Yeah. So part of it was seeing my parents do it and then seeing the fruition of it. But then the other part is I didn't really have a choice. A lot of people that make these risky whatevers or do these crazy things, to a certain degree, they don't really have a choice. It wasn't like, I should be an entrepreneur. I would rather that than have a job. No, I can't get a job. No, I can't go to school. So it's when at that point, again, going back to the point where I'm 18, trying to figure out what I'm going to do because I feel like my hands are tied. I'm over here what? The only other option is quit. And what does that look like? Not doing anything? So at that point, it's kind of all right, well, I guess we're going to jump in. But, part of it was you learn to swim when you get thrown in the deep end and you don't have another choice but to swim. So me having those experiences in my life made me much more comfortable with risk, because that was kind of how I had to do things. And then you start seeing it pay off and you're like, okay, it's not that bad and you can do it. Yeah. So that was such an instrumental part, and kind of an interesting story, because these things don't stay with you. You have to exercise them, right? 2012, Obama enacted DACA. So that gave me and over 800,000 people who came here undocumented as minors the ability to work and drive and do a few other things temporarily as a safe haven until Congress passed an actual path to citizenship. So that for me changed everything, because now I could legally drive, now I could legally work, now I could, move out, and now I could do things. And I'll never forget that for a short while I left Darlington. I had grown, I did everything I could do there. And I went to work at an ad agency, and I went to work at the ad agency for the first time with proper documentation. And it was kind of 16-year-old Aaron's dream, right? I want to work at an ad agency and do this and that. And I made more money than I'd ever made. I had benefits, I had all this. And long story short, I was only there for 9 months. It ended up not working out for a handful of reasons, but I was making so much money and I got so comfortable, I stopped doing anything. I went to work, I did my job, I cashed my check, I came home, I messed around on the weekends, I went out with my girl. And then when I got laid off, I'm just like, you got comfortable. I didn't have any money. Yep. I had to move out. And I'm just like, man, I should have been out there shopping my own clients. I should have been using that steady income to go build my thing. But keep in mind, man, I've been busting ass for all my life. So for me to feel like
man.
I belonged for the first time, to have an office job, to have benefits, to have like the American dream, I was like, I deserve to chill for a little bit, you know. And I was paying my debt off. I was being responsible, but once that opportunity went away, I got caught with my pants down, and I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? And that's when I just said, I was like, I'm never allowing myself to just coast again, because I could have like really used that opportunity to do great things. And I figured it out and I made it work, but it was a lot harder because I got comfortable, because I wasn't taking risks anymore. I wasn't trying to figure out, how do I diversify my income streams? How do I use this money to go invest in other things? And, you know, that was 25-year-old mistake that I'm like, okay, never again. And now I'm over here working on 4 income streams, working on number 5, because I'm never going to get caught in that situation. But that's life. You learn, you grow up, and you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Yeah, man. So what's the earliest thing you ever wanted to be? Can you remember that? Like the earliest thing Aaron wanted to be?
An artist. You know, I didn't know graphic design existed until I went to Anthus.
Okay.
But like I was always drawing, you know, young, me and my brother watching Dragon Ball Z. I'm drawing all the characters. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just like spending hours. Yeah. So once graphic design came into my life, I think that solidified. It was like, oh, I can make money doing designs on a computer. I didn't know that was a thing. And I was naturally pretty good at it because I was always an artistic person. So from when I was young, I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what kind. And I think this is one of those few stories of like where I knew more or less what I wanted to do. And I got the opportunity to learn and take that up from a very early age. So I say I'm 30 now. I've been a graphic designer for 14 years. That's nuts to have a career that long.
That's awesome.
At the age of 30, you know, but so that's why I say I'm super grateful that all these things came from Karen Gilly to Anthus to my supportive parents to me just naturally being an artist. And also I think something important is there were the baseline of expectations for my parents was like 0. It wasn't like, we want you to be a lawyer like your dad. It wasn't, we want you to go to this, like, they're like, what do you want to do? Right? Because we came here kind of fresh. Yeah. So that ability gave me so much freedom to be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna be an artist, right? I didn't have parents like, no, you need to be an accountant. So super happy about it. But yeah, always wanted to be creative, always wanted to do something along those lines.
Yeah, and you know, I think creativity is a really big component to problem solving, and problem solving is the key to entrepreneurship. And I just think, you know, I'm listening to your story and there's a lot of things I'm just like, oh yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. Yeah. For you all who are listening and who are thinking through, you know, as Aaron and I are talking, I want you to think about opportunities in your life where you can take risks. I want you to think about opportunities in your life where maybe you've been playing it safe. And this is not to make you feel any kind of way about it. Just want you to be aware of it and start bringing into your awareness when you are constantly playing it safe and the results that it's getting you. Because there is validation in playing it safe, but there may not be the rewards that you're looking for. There may not be the growth that you're looking for. There may not be the opportunities you're looking for in playing it safe. And so I don't want you to be listening to this interview and be like, you know, want to go set your life on fire. No, just start entering into your awareness what it looks like for you when you're playing it safe, and what the reoccurring options and situations that come from that. So Aaron, what personally do you feel like was the biggest barrier for you becoming a great entrepreneur, Thanks for listening to Empower You Podcast. I want to take a second and tell you about a service I've been using that has literally changed my life. Akita Ricks, the founder of SoarYourScore.com, helped me erase negative items on my credit score, provided me a clear path to improving my credit, and raised my score by 100 points in the first 90 days. Like, whoa. The best part about all of this is all I had to do was follow instructions. Now, if you're like me and you need a credit bestie, you need to click the link below and schedule your absolutely free discovery call today. Tell them Kid Boy sent you. A terrific leader, becoming a business owner, because what I know about business is that 80% of it is inside, and 20% is all the application and processes that bring it to fruition. And so if you scroll through Instagram and Facebook, you'll see a lot of people pitching systems to you, but the system is only an extension of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't the thing, it's going to be difficult for you to constantly convince others that you are the thing. And so that's why I say personally, because you could say, oh, I met this person, or no. Personally, something you had to overcome that you started to see things click for you when you did.
I mean, it's one of those things that's like, it's an ever going thing. So like, I'm still dealing with this today, and it's giving yourself the permission to just do it. Like, that's really it. You've got to give yourself that permission. You know, I'm sure that the first time that you said, hey, let's do a podcast, there were a lot of questions, right? I mean, you've learned so much along the way. Some of the companies I built, like Founder Spark, like I made up that job. I made up like, oh, let's do this and this and this. But it's like, when you doubt yourself, when you're like, and I, keep in mind, as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old graphic designer, and my job at Darlington being a 19-year-old marketing director, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm in the room with people who've been doing that job longer than I've been alive. You know what I'm saying? And I'm over here and literally just like Googled my way into this job, and you feel like you don't know what you're doing, right? So it's like, there's this like mental separation, whether it's because you're young, going into the workforce for the first time, whether you're someone who's used to having a 9-to-5 that is entering into the entrepreneurship world, that's never done it, or you're in another industry. Whenever you're new or green to something, you feel as if like everyone here has it figured out, has all the answers, and you're the only one who's lost and confused. And what I learned once I started going out there as a graphic designer, again, the greatest benefit is I worked exclusively with small business owners, logos, websites, things like that. I realized some of the people who have been around running businesses that we all know and hear about don't know what they're doing either. You know, like we're all at every level, just like, damn, like, what do I do? Damn, what do I do? And I'm so grateful that I got to see so many people from so many different levels figuring it out, making it up on their own, failing. Like, I got to see so much of that. I'm like, damn, it doesn't matter whether you're 50 or 20, like we're all learning, right? You get really good at this part of your thing, you go up to that next level, you're starting from new again. Now you have to learn how to do all this stuff for the first time. So one of the biggest things that I saw is the people who had the most success were not the ones who knew the most. They were the ones who just did it. Right. And understanding you are allowed to screw up without one bad decision isn't going to sink your ship. And that's why I tell early entrepreneurs specifically, so many, like they want to make the perfect choice. You can't, it doesn't matter. As long as you're standing still, you're losing. So mitigate your risks. And sometimes it's not about a good or a bad decision. It's about a good and a better one. One's going to be slightly better. To a certain degree, it doesn't matter anymore. Make a choice, move forward. And if you got to change that decision later, then do it. But allowing yourself the permission to do it, not wondering, well, what do I know about vlogging or podcasting or this? You don't have to know anything. You just got to do it. So once you unlock that, you are going to open up a world where you are open to trying things you don't understand, things you don't know about. And then you're going to look back and say, man, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago instead of when I did it now. So getting started and giving yourself the permission to do something you know nothing about is the biggest thing that's going to get you far in life, no matter whether you have a job, you're doing your own thing, or anything. You just got to say, why not me?
Yeah, why not me? That's a great question to be asking yourself as you are thinking through this episode, listening. Why not me? You know, and that's something you got to continue to ask yourself
every single time, because I'm still to this level dealing with that. Like, you go into all these new situations, the confidence doesn't stick there. You got to train it, and you got to ask yourself and be intentional with that mindset every step of the way.
Absolutely. One of the things you said was the people who make the biggest impact are not the ones who know the most. It's the ones who take action repeatedly. And that to me is like a bar. And I hope you all who are listening are grasping that fully. It is not about knowing the most. It's just about taking action. Another thing that you said that was really, really great was that it's not really a decision of good or bad. It's a decision of good or slightly better. I made a post the other day and I said, you know, entrepreneurship and even success is generally a game of inches. It's not a game of long distances. It's just a game of continually winning inches. And when you continue to do that, over time, you got a foot, you got 3 feet, you got 6 feet. But if you're just waiting on that one big step, it's just not going to happen. And you're not even in a position to see a big step if you haven't won enough inches, because then you can't really discern it, those are absolutely great. Do you think it's necessary for Gen Z and millennial students to go to school? I mean, again, just to clarify, we're not dissing people going to school, but this is a conversation I want us all to be having, especially as industries continue to change. You can't be a TikTok expert. TikTok's been around like 2 years. Who's an expert at TikTok? They know what's working for them. Some of these industries are super fresh, but they're hugely monumental if you understand how to use them. And so that's why I ask, do you think it's necessary for Gen Z or millennials to be going back to school or getting into college in this day and age?
So there's a few layers to this. It's like, number one, you have to ask yourself, what do I want to do? Like, what brings me joy? And I'll give the example of when I was young, I wanted to be a graphic designer. And that was my vision, to be a graphic designer, to sit and work at an ad agency. Now, that goal was so out of line because I didn't realize what I liked. I don't like being a cog in a wheel. I like creative. I love solving problems. And that industry wasn't it. And it's like, when you put your vision on a singular thing like that, you miss out on all these other opportunities that may be better for you, that you're just like, well, no, that's not the goal, right? So for me, I had to say, no, I want to make an impact on the people that I'm working with. Like that now is my vision. And now that opens me up to all the different ways I can make an impact, whether that's a podcast, whether that's coaching, whether that's being a graphic designer. So number one, you have to find out, what do you want to do, right? And it may be influencing people. It may be helping people. Like, keep it general, because that's going to open up all these opportunities of things you didn't know. The second thing of like going to college, I think right now, once you figure some of those things out, you have to, before you go into college for anything, you got to start testing it out. You want to be a YouTube guy, you want to get into audio engineer, go find someone. Like, literally anyone who comes to me and says, I want to be a graphic designer, take me out to lunch. I will tell you everything I know. I have two interns right now who are just like learning, and I'm giving them the whole background. But that does two things. Number one, it lets you understand the reality of it versus a brochure for college that says, be a designer. It's fun and great. No, when you hear about the work it takes to be an entrepreneur, the work it takes to host a podcast, that's what's going to give you the real knowledge, right? And you're able to talk to you, you're able to talk to me, you're able to YouTube and do a lot of research on your own. And depending on the industry you're in, it may not be necessary. I became a professional photographer for 5 years, co-running a business, and I started as an intern. I literally just said, hey, let me carry your stuff. I'll set up, I'll tear down, teach me how to do it. I'll do it for free. I wasn't worried about money at all. I just said, teach me. 2 years later, I'm shooting with Barb. 3 years in, I'm co-running the company with her. So it's like, I think that if you're looking at anything that has to do with fine arts or creativity or whatever, and this is the one I can speak about personally, go YouTube it, go find people and mentor and have them mentor you for free. Go do all of those things for a year or two. And then if you feel like you need to go to school, then go to school. But my general advice, anything in the fine arts or creative industry, you're going to have a better time working with people doing it. And you'll either work for free or work for a little bit of money, which is way better than paying $20,000 a semester, And if you do want to go to school, fine. But don't go for photography, go for business. Right? Because whatever you're learning to do, if you learn how to make a business out of it, you're going to have the greatest level of success. And I can't tell you how many designers or whatever people I meet that are super great at their craft, but don't know how to capitalize on it. And then you end up working at a job that's paying you crap because you don't have anything else. If you got a camera and know how to make money with that camera, you don't need college. I'm so grateful because I don't have any college debt. And I was a marketing director at 19, making it up as I go. And it's kind of like, I still got friends over here paying college debt that for degrees they never used. So I would say go out into the real world, experiment, learn, connect with the community, and opportunities out there. There's so many creatives I know that would in a heartbeat take an intern who is curious and willing to do hard work. And you're going to learn way more from them than a college professor who hasn't been in the industry either ever or for the last 15 years, and he's training you to be in a mid-level, whatever. Go out there and explore. And once you do that, you're going to find what's best for you. Cool. I'm going to go out here, learn how to do this out here, and then go here, take online classes, or go to my local community college and learn business stuff. And it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. And the stuff I'm learning here is going to make more money than you know what I'm saying? You have to figure out your own plan. But I think if you're blindly saying, I need to go to college because it's what my parents said, because it's what these other people say, or because I don't know what to do, you're not going to have a good time, and it's going to be a very, very expensive experiment. So I encourage people to take a gap year, 1 year, 2 year, start exploring, go do a ton of stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. If anything, you learn a few things, you meet a few people, and you make some money. But we have to be more exploratory to figure out what works for us.
And one of the things that you said, first, you said so many good things, but I want to highlight a couple things because you went by them so quick, man. You were like getting it, which I think is amazing. I want to back, our listeners and even myself up. Like, one of the things that you said, which was really important, you said, even if you work for free for somebody, it costs you less than going to school for something that you ultimately don't really know what you're doing with, right? So think about that. You could absolutely go volunteer some of your time for somebody, and you'll learn the same kind of fundamentals potentially that you would learn in a class where you're paying $10,000s.
Yeah, and it's a lot less committed. Like, once you start the degree, you got to finish it, and you're not getting into the industry stuff until year 2 or 3. So you're year 2 in, you've done all this schooling, and you're like, oh, I don't like audio engineering. What do you do there? If you go spend a month, 3 months, 6 months in audio engineering doing it, even though if you don't know what you're doing, just learning about it and seeing where people spend their time, you're going to be like, I don't want to do that. And what did that cost you? Like 3 or 6 months of you realizing you didn't want to do it versus now I'm 3 years in, and what am I going to do? So it's a lot less of a risk to do that than to jump straight into, nope, I definitely want to do it, even though I don't know what it takes. I don't know anyone who does it, and I don't know what it's actually like. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that you said was find somebody to mentor you. One of the things that I want to bring up is when you are dealing with entrepreneurs or business owners in fine arts, some of them are not good teachers. They're very good at their craft. They're not good teachers. And so as you are assessing what you're going to do and who you're going to work with, you really need to work with someone who identifies with your values. Don't just pick the dude with 100 or however many likes. Pick somebody who you personally resonate with, because more times than not, your identity and the kind of human being that you were raised to be, maybe that culturally you have been groomed to be, it's going to be a better fit for you guys to work together, which takes a lot of pressure off of them, because automatically you guys are able to mesh better, so they can talk to you differently and they can really start to help you learn. If you're just going after the first person, you can find yourself in an environment with somebody who is not at all your type of human being, trying to teach you something you don't know anything about at a pace that you may not be able to keep up with. So understanding that, like, I want to intern with somebody like Aaron or like Kibwe, not because of what we've done. Well, yeah, because of what we've done, but because of the type of human being that they are. And I would like to learn from that type of human being, not because you do the big events. Someone else could do a big event and they would not be the right person for you. So understanding the kind of human being you want to be around is very, very critical. And to go further to your point, when you go to school, you have no choice but to take whoever they give you. So you could have an instructor who doesn't understand you, doesn't understand your learning style and your pace of learning, and they don't care. There's 60 other students who they're trying to take care of as well. And so you just got to deal with it.
And I love that point that you made, because it's one of those things that's like, people don't think about that. You have to look at yourself and say, what kind of life do I want to, like, close your eyes and say, okay, I'm interested in photography. What does that look like for you? What does that morning look like for you? What does your day look like? What does your evening look like? I've met people that are in the same industries that some are workaholics, are working all the time. They're busting ass, the whole Gary Vee mentality. Then I have others who are chill and they're doing this so they don't have to work that much, and they're streamlining and hiring other people, and they're not doing, you have to decide which one of those you want to be. And it's not a right and a wrong way. There's a lot of ways to build a business, a lot of ways to make $1 million. How do you want to do it? What is the way that you want to do it, right? And it's like energy is such a real thing of like who you vibe with and who you're hanging out with.
Yes.
They're teaching you those things. So it's like one of the most important things I can tell anyone, especially, Gen Z and younger, the best thing you can do is learn about yourself. A lot of us don't know about ourselves, especially at that age. Why? Because we've been told what to wear, because we've been told how to learn. Like, it's everyone telling you what to do all the time. So at a certain degree, you go to school, you do whatever, and you're like, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this because this is what I've been conditioned to do? So once you learn who you are, what you want to do, the way you want to do it, you're going to start finding some of those circles. And it's beautiful when, like, wait, have you ever met with someone and clicked and instantly you're just like, you're my type, like you're my,
yeah, bro.
Once you surround yourself by all of those people, life changes.
Yes, sir.
So learn who you are, and then you start to attract things that's like, oh, I want chill friends. Oh, I want really inspiring whatever. Oh, I want people who work really hard. Or you meet different people in your life and you get a chill person and a hype person and a workaholic and a super whatever, and then you get that sampler of like, ooh, I love this about them. Yeah. And that's what I love about all the people I've met, because there's such inherent benefit as to how they do things. And the more I see things that I like about them, I learn more about me. So it's awesome.
And comfortability is a big thing, right? When you get around environments that make you feel comfortable, that make you feel challenged, that you vibe with the human beings that are there, and they understand where you're coming from. They can see your trauma. They can see things that you are probably going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
It's a completely different ball game, because again, that it's the you that has to get better, because the better you get at providing what you're good at, that comes out in your confidence. It comes out in the work that you do. It comes out in the way that you talk to clients, the way you show up online, the things you say, the people who you meet and connect with. It all starts because you're gonna become the thing. Yeah. And if you're trying to be somebody who doesn't really resonate with you energetically or just with your personality in general, you're gonna have a real weird disconnect. You're not gonna be very happy. You can burn yourself out on something you really love because you're not going about it the right way.
Something that a lot of people need to get used to that they may not be used to is you have to set intention and you have to take control. Because we are raised in schooling of like, you listen and people are going to tell you what to do next. With the mentor thing, a lot of people I know go to mentors and like, you tell me. I'm like, no, I need you to tell me what you're trying to get out of this. I need you to tell me what success looks like. They're coming to me and saying like, help me. To do what? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to learn. if you're going to go into a mentor and say, help me, I need to know what you've done. I need to know what you want to do. I want to know, like, give me the thing. And you can go to many people and they're just going to teach you what they think you want to learn based on what they want or what their values are. So once you understand, no, here's my direction and here's what I'm trying to do, you go to a mentor and you say, here's what I need to learn. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm not good at. Here's where you can benefit me. That intentionality is going to make the most, because otherwise you're going to other people and having them set the direction for you. Mentorship is not for someone to tell you which direction your life should be in. Mentorship is someone to bounce ideas from, but you have to have that direction. So anyone who's looking at mentorship or talking to anyone, you gotta tell me the direction of the ship. I'm gonna help you get there. Or I'm gonna tell you, go a little bit to the left. But people coming to me are like, all right, help me become whatever. What? I don't know. So a lot of people just aren't used to that. So you have to come in, tell me what you want, tell me what you need, tell me where you're trying to go. Once you have that clarity, it's so much easier to know who and what is worth your time and what isn't.
Absolutely. And again, understanding who and what is worth your time is really huge. One of the things that I have learned, especially this last year, is identify who you want to work with. You don't want to work with everybody.
No.
Could you work with everybody? Sure, absolutely. But do you? Why? If you could make a bag just working with one type of person, who would it be? Just ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, if you're just like, well, I don't know, I've kind of worked with a couple different kinds of people and it all went pretty well, just pick one. Try that for a second.
Yeah.
Like a month, a year. Just try that. Because again, you're talking about inches here. You're talking about good and better. You're not talking about life and death. You're not talking about, win or fail, because all of this is just a continuum, right? We're all gonna fail at something. Aaron, one of the things I want to ask you, which is kind of a burning question for me, do you think, what has been the most helpful for you, learning or unlearning?
Oof, that's a tough one. I think it's definitely unlearning, because learning, it comes, it goes, it changes, whatever. But when I go back to that thing I said, where it's like you have to know about yourself, like I have to unblock myself, right? We talked about it earlier about that mindset. I have to realize what my thought patterns are and learning to change those. Like if I want to have a certain level of success, I got to be more bold. I got to take more chances. I have to be okay rising up a few levels and not doing that as well as I do down here. Like if you want success, or if you want to get to whatever you're trying to get to, you have to change your thought patterns to be at that wavelength. And that means unlearning. I like one of those situations where you're going in there and I'm pitching someone and it's like, oh, they said yes, and they're going to give me the biggest check I've gotten to date. You can't go in there with doubt. You can't go in there with those things. So taking a look into myself and being like, what am I doing to get in my own way? Because like I said, most of the time it's us getting in our own way. Most of the time it's me not taking opportunities. So understanding myself and then undoing those trauma responses, undoing those beliefs that I had, that like you have to stop and ask yourself, is this real, or is this just what I've been telling myself for the last 3 years? So like I'm still always actively saying, it's like, all right, Aaron, stop being a perfectionist. It doesn't help you. You don't do anything when you're a perfectionist. Okay, Aaron, stop acting like you know what they're thinking, because you don't. I'm over here saying, oh, they're mad. How do you know? You know what I'm saying? It's like we all have these internal stories and things we tell each other. And I call myself a recovering people pleaser. I'm a recovering perfectionist, because I was raised in a certain way where it's like I had to represent immigrants. I had to represent the first generation of my family here. I have to represent, being a young designer who like has to assert the fact he belongs in the room. I've had all these reasons to try and always have to perform here, that now even as an adult, I'm like, if it's not perfect, I can't do it. And I'm like, I've been working so hard to undo that, because you don't get into the next opportunity, the learning, the all of that, if you're wanting to do it perfectly. So learning who you are and then undoing all those things that are stopping you is going to be the biggest thing. You can learn whatever, whenever, whoever, it doesn't matter. If those things that are blocking you are never looked into and done, like undone, you're going to struggle. And no one can tell you those things except for you. Some people may be able to notice it, but you don't. You're like, you got to look into you and be like, yep, that's the kind of person I am. Like for me, one of the biggest things is I'm scarcity mindset when it comes to money. I was raised with not a lot of money. If I get money, I'm keeping that check. I'm putting it away. Money doesn't help you if it's just sitting in the bank. But for me, it's such an important thing. And with my girl, she's so like opposite of mine, where she's like, yeah, let's spend it. Let's do this. Let's do that. So that's been me getting out of my shell and saying, okay, when you invest the money, when you're not scared of like, oh, if I spend it, I'm going to be broke, like the money starts working for you. You start making. So it's surrounding myself also with those people that are strong in the places where I'm weak and keeping them around. So you don't have to do it alone. It helps
you unlearn.
Yeah, for sure.
And that helps you unlearn, because when you're around somebody who has unlearned something already and you're struggling with that, and they can continue to remind you, and they may not even understand that's what they're doing for you. But this is where to even take us back to getting an apprenticeship, volunteering or whatever with somebody who you really resonate with, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen. You'll be around someone who's so much stronger in a certain area, it just continues to encourage you to get better. And for you, it's your spouse who's just like, yo, we're not going to hoard and haul our little, squirrel nuts together. We're not going to do none of that. We're going to continue to reinvest and continue to sow into other things so that we can reap the benefits. The universal principle principle of sowing and reaping is huge, and it happens whether you want it or not. If you're sowing lack by being so afraid to do anything, you're absolutely going to have less opportunities because that's what you've sown, and you're going to have less opportunities in abundance. And if you sow into things because you know this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to be doing, I'm not going to allow these resources to reach me without helping other people, without investing in myself, that same opportunity, those same monies are going to come back in abundance because you're doing the right thing with it.
It's super crazy because when you are new, when you're green, whether it's age, whether it's industry, whatever it is, like you don't know those things. You don't know how things flow. You're learning. So I always say like the biggest killer of entrepreneurship is people that quit after their first L. You think, oh, I didn't sell enough, I did whatever, I'm not cut out for this. When you have failed and done enough things like you and me, those things don't stop you anymore. It's like, all right, how do I do it better? Let me come back and so many people are stopped because they think that first L means they're not cut out for it. And like, I've taken more L's than so many other people have tried. And that's like, this is not these are not businesses I started when I was 16. It was learning, screwing up. And that's how you learn. But like, so many people are so green, they don't know how it goes. And I think a lot of the basis of what we're talking about when it comes to education, for me, it's kind of like individualization, figure out what works for you. So that's why having that network of people that, first off, you understanding yourself allows you to understand who you need in your life. I need industry professionals that can guide me into this career I'm interested in. I got people that like aren't scared of risk. I am. So hanging around them and hearing them talk helps me feel better. Like you start to build your delegation and your team around the things you want to do, the things you want to get rid of, the things you want to learn. You do all of that. And it is so absolutely critical because if you hang out with 10 entrepreneurs and you're just getting started, that first L is not going to hit as hard as it would if you were alone because you're not in your mind saying, they're going to be like, oh man, I failed 10 times worse the first time I did it. And they're going to help you course correct. But that's why having a team, the right team is so important. And that's something I learned from such a young age. The best advice I ever got from Karen Gilly was build your network. And I can tell you that the best opportunities, the best learning, the best growing all happens with your connections. Those jobs aren't on Indeed. Yeah. Those opportunities, though, you know, a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who needs something, you're that person. That's what it is. So it's super important to build people around you. Stop telling yourself what you can or cannot do in an industry or in a field that you know nothing about. Talk to a million people and say, here's what I want to do. What do you think? They're going to be like, oh, for sure. Or they're going to be like, here's how. So having that external help is going to help you so much. Don't do it alone.
Yeah. Which is what you do with Founder Spark, right? You introduce these young and aspiring entrepreneurs into an environment where they can get the mentorship and the help and the resources so that they're not just out trying to figure it out all completely alone, right?
Right. It's 100%. I spent my whole life, like I said, with hardships, with doors that were closed, and it was other people who saw and recognized it and were like, hey, this guy needs a logo. Hey, I know someone who, and that built up my career to where it is now. So for me, when I started Founder Spark, I was like, how can I give back? How can I have a room full of people that can benefit one another? And like the first thing we did is we bought pizza, we bought drinks over at the atrium, the co-working space downtown, and like 16 people showed up. And it was cool. Like they had a good time. So I'm like, let's do it again. By the end of that year, we increased the format to where I was interviewing people because it was like, hey, we don't want this to be like 12, 15, 20 people that are all lost and all new, just being lost together. How do we make sure they're getting something out of it? Yeah. So I started interviewing all these kind of higher profile experienced people in front of an audience. And that was so beneficial. And we did it with this like lens of like rawness. Like, I'm not talking, to Bo from Bravos about like every highlight he's done. I'm not talking to Theophilus Smith about he's telling me how much he struggled. Bo's telling me the hardships he had, because when we share the hardships, we're not over here like, oh, he did it, but he had A, B, C, and D, and I don't have any of that. You get to listen to this incredible success, say, here's all the crap that I had to eat up until that point. And there's people in the audience who's like, that's what I'm dealing with. It becomes much more relatable. And the networking, the connecting afterwards isn't like, yeah, my name is whatever, and I'm good at what I do. And it's a bunch of people just pretending to know more than they know. The conversations afterwards are like, look, man, I'm struggling with that too. I doubt myself every day. When we as entrepreneurs, as creators, as hustlers, as whatever, connect with each other and say, I feel scared, I'm feeling lost, I'm whatever, that's a totally different experience where the actual help comes in. And that's why I say mentorship is not multi-million-dollar whatever and a green person. It's literally, if I know marketing and you know finance and we get a beer together in exchange, that's mentorship. If we get together on a weekend and just have a drink because it was a tough week for the both of us, that's mentorship. And that's what we need. If we're able to be honest, raw, and connect with each other on a real human level, you're going to find out you're not alone, and you're going to get so much more benefit than trying to pretend like you have it all figured out. So that's really the basis of Founder Spark.
I want to ask you one more question, and then we'll go into our thought exercise.
Let's do it.
Okay. So for you, what do you think is the most beneficial aspect of this conversation that you want our audience to walk away with? If they remember anything about this, whether it's the fact that they need to start being more aware when they're playing it safe and they're running away from risk, whether it's when they are trying to figure out, what kind of community to grow around themselves, whether it's the idea that knowing yourself helps you be better at whatever it is that you want to do. Like, what do you want our listeners to walk away with today?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, and here's the thing. None of that matters if you don't master this thing right here. Stop relying on other people to make the plan for you. Stop expecting other people to know what needs to happen in your life. You have to be the architect of your life. You have to decide what you want to do. And it's hard, like, I'm not going to say it's easy. A lot of us have parents with expectations. A lot of us have partners with expectations. A lot of us have other people, or we've been conditioned our whole life, other people telling us what to do and what's good for us. And some of us just get so tuned into that. But whether it comes to college, switching careers, becoming an entrepreneur, whatever it is, stop seeking validation or a direction from other people. You have to say, I'm going to plot a course. I understand my course may be wrong, but I'm plotting it. And then from there, you course correct. But stop putting your life in the hands of other people. Don't figure out if you're going to go to college based on other people. You have to know what you want to do. If you want to go to college, let that be your decision. If you want to start a business, let that be your decision. Once you start taking ownership, you stop blaming other people and you start taking accountability in your own life. All right, I'm in this situation. How did I get myself in this situation? And how can I get myself out? Because the day you say it was their fault, they did this, you're giving them the power and you're taking away the power from you. You can't get yourself out of a situation someone else put you in, but you can get yourself out of a situation you put yourself in. So make the plan, take the responsibility for your life, take that extreme accountability and say, no matter who's in your life, no matter what your educational route is, no matter what your career is, make sure that that is your decision and not someone else's decision. And you're going to piss people off, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, they don't have to go to bed with the decisions you made. You do. So take ownership about that and your life is going to change.
Wow, man, that is so good. And the thing that I thought about when you were saying that was taking ownership, taking responsibility. All of these things are risky decisions. And when you take ownership for something, you're risking that everyone's going to be upset with you. When you take ownership of something, you're risking that you may have just seriously disappointed yourself.
Yeah.
When you take ownership, you're risking your self-esteem and things like that. But it's through that teaches you not to make those decisions anymore. It teaches you not to leave the back door open and so your dog runs out into the street. It teaches you how to navigate the risk that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Because when you take responsibility for it, you said another thing that was just so, you said you can't get yourself out of a situation someone else put you in, but you can get yourself out of something that you understand where you messed up.
It's a mental thing. It's such a mental thing for people. And that's what I'm saying. You have to switch it. You got to say, I'm in the situations I'm in, good, bad, or ugly, because of decisions I made. Once you do that, you are the master of your own life. I mean, here's what it comes down to. I'm a firm believer. I got a solid 75, 80 years on this earth. I don't know why we're here. I don't know what we're supposed to do, but why would I want to live that experience doing what someone else wants me to do? For what? For why? You know what I'm saying? I have built, I'll sit there and I'm like, man, how am I living this life? Like, how am I? It's incredible when I look at my relationships, when I look at my work, when I look at like all the things I get to do. I'm like, how did I do this? There is no game plan. Like, no one would have put me in this position. If you do the default, if you do what everyone else wants you to do, you're always going to go under your potential. I'm like, you know what? No, I deserve this kind of relationship. I deserve this kind of woman in my life. I deserve this kind of money coming in, doing something I love. I deserve, and then you fight. You fight. And there's people that are going to tell you, no, you can't. No, that's not possible. Founder Spark was built from my idea of let's help other people. There was no job opening for a Founder Spark. I had to build it out of my own imagination. And at this point, I'm living one of the best lives I could even imagine. Now I'm over here dreaming even bigger. But if you ask for permission and if you try and follow a blueprint that already exists, it's not going to work, because you are not born to follow a blueprint. You are born to create a life around who you are. So stop focusing on centering yourself around other things and have things centered around you. But that means you have to take control. You have to take accountability and responsibility. But we can all have the life we want to live. It's not going to be easy, but man, I'd rather be busting ass building my ideal life than busting ass doing something I'm absolutely miserable with.
Absolutely. This is amazing. There's so much in here, man.
We could talk for like 8 hours,
many times. I know, bro. We got to connect off screen
let's
too.
Do it.
Listen, before you go, I want to get a thought exercise from you, man. I know we're hitting time. If you got like 10 minutes, let's get a thought exercise in, because right now, if you're anything like me, your head is swimming and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I need? What do I need to do now? What do I need to do today? That's why we do thought exercises.
Yes.
Because that's that implementation, something you can start doing right now, is what's going to seal in the rest of the things in this episode. And then you can listen to them back and just keep applying. That's why we do thought exercises. I'm real big on call to actions.
Yeah.
Like, what do I need to do now that I'm super oversaturated and I'm like buzzing? What do I need to do? So whatever you want to leave with us, the floor is yours, brother.
No, and I love exactly what you're saying about call to action, because like, all right, yeah, you're inspired, but then now what? So one of the things that, a lot of this theme, the people who are going to identify with this the most are the ones who are trying to figure it out, right? Maybe they're younger, they're going into those years where they have to make big decisions for the first time. Maybe it's someone who's a little bit older and they're trying to make a big shift that is harder to make with kids, wife, a mortgage, all those things. But for the people that are, even if you think you have it figured out, one of the most important things I've ever done is journal, is take time to hit pause, because there are so many of us who will sit here and we like to do, right? Like, we're habitual doers. You wake up, you got to take care of the kids, you got to do this, you got to go to school, you got to do whatever. And we feel good every time we're doing so much. And right, people are like, I'm busy, I'm this, whatever. One of my favorite quotes from J. Cole is, the good news is you went a long way. The bad news is you went the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? And that hit me in my soul. I know exactly what you're that hit me in my soul, because so many times we're busting ass, we're working, we're doing, and we're going in a direction that we don't want to do. So one of the best things that I suggest people do with journaling is like, or not even with journaling. Journaling is like one of the mediums, but it's take a pause and be intentional on the direction you're going, right? When you sit there and you're like, all right, let's think about my job. Why am I at this job? Is it because it's teaching me something? Is it because it's money? Figure out why you're at that job, because otherwise you're coasting. So, okay, I'm at this job because it's stable income, it's taking care of me and my family, and it's giving me funds to go do this side hustle. Okay, cool. Like, you got clarity on that. Why are you with the partner you're with? Why are you spending your time doing whatever? Like, what am I missing? Well, I'm always tired because I'm not eating right, because I'm not exercising. When you take a pause on your life and you start to set intentions or write down, what do I feel bad about? List it off. What are things I'm grateful for? Like, just take time to stop and figure out where you're at, where you're coming from, where you're going. So many times we don't do that. A great mentor of mine, Barry Schrock, he's great because he'd come into the office and just like leave this lightning and then leave. I was eating like Jimmy John's, just minding my business. He walks in and we chat for like a minute and he leaves and says, remember, Aaron, we always have a to-do list, but we don't have a to-be list. Make sure you have a to-be list every day. And he left. And I'm just like, whoa. But what he was trying to say is like, we make lists of the things we want to do, right? I need to do this. I got to go grocery shopping, whatever. But we don't make lists of things we want to be. Like, I want to be intentional today. I want to be kind today. I want to be an inspiration today. I want to be like, so taking the time to like reflect on your life is so important, right? And you'll know, like when you stop and think, you'll know what you need to focus on. It may be school, it may be your family, it may be whatever. But one of the things I was talking to my friend about last night is a few years ago, after a really crazy time when Founder Spark was blowing up, I went to an Airbnb on this like 40-acre spot, totally alone. And I just spent the whole weekend, just me by myself in nature. What am I doing? What's going on? And I sat there at 28 and it gave me such clarity. And when I went back out into the world, I didn't feel bad because I knew why I was waking up in the morning. I knew why I was going to work. I knew why I was building this business. I centered myself as to where I'm going, where I came from, and took some time to be like, congratulations. You've grown so much. You've done so much. And something that I know a lot in entrepreneurship, and anyone who's like a high performer, we do not take the time to stop and say, look how far you've come. Look how far we've come. So whatever you need to do, whatever you need to sit down and reflect on, find peace every day. Give yourself 20 minutes where you're not answering the phone. You're not like, you are isolated, no devices, just one of these or whatever, audio, whatever, doesn't matter. But sit down and be like, am I doing it right? Why am I doing it? Am I happy? Ask yourself these questions, because otherwise you learn to be unhappy and just ride out your life. You get into a groove that is flying way below your potential. And if you never stop to ask yourself if you're at your highest or if you're headed in the direction you need to, that's where you end up, 45, 50 in a marriage that doesn't suit you, in a life that you don't want, with mortgages you can't afford to pay. And you're like, man, I just wanted to be on a boat drawing pictures. You know what I'm saying? So taking the time every day, 15, 20 minutes, write down, ask questions, literally just pick it up and start writing and see where it takes you. And you're going to uncover so many things of like, I didn't know that was bothering me. Or now I understand why I'm feeling this way. Take time to look inside and figure out what's going on in there, whether it's a weekend retreat by yourself, whether that's journaling, whether that's going for a walk, but find a little bit of time every day or every once in a while to really make sure that if you're going a long way, it's in the direction you want to go, because it's going to be work either way. Might as well be work in the direction that you want it to be. Yeah.
And your awareness will bring into reality so many things.
Yeah.
And that goes to your point of just being and taking time to be aware, just so pivotal.
Yeah. And you'll notice the difference, because when I'm not doing it, I notice. I get into these weird emotions. I don't know what I'm feeling. I get lost. And then like you realize you're run down. I'm like, I'm in a rut. I'm exhausted. But it's because I'm not taking my pulse that I get into those situations. If you were to be able to do that a little more frequently, you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I never realized I'm feeling a little bit tired. Now you can be proactive about it. But take time to understand yourself, because every path, every growth, like you're going to change, right? When you learn to do something better, when you're getting to the end of your schooling, these transitional periods change who we are as people. And we can't be like, oh, I'm the same person I was 5-10 years ago. You're not, and you can't live back there. You have to say, what are my new needs? What are my expectations to my partner? How has our relationship changed? What do I need to do to make that relationship better? Who should I not be friends with anymore that I never stopped and asked myself, oh, they're not on my vibe anymore. You know what I'm saying? Our friends change, the people in our lives change, all these things change. And if you're still working, on a software update from like 10 years ago, you're not performing. So it's like, do those software updates and say, cool, I need to do this more. I need to do that less. That person I need to distance from. This person I need to get closer with. Take the time to like figure out what's in here. And then everything outside of that is just going to make a lot more sense for you.
That's so huge. Taking that quiet time, taking that pause, taking that time to journal.
I call them bathroom moments. Like, have you ever like been at a party drinking or doing whatever, and you go into the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're just like, yo, we're in this, like I have so many of those moments where like you're around a lot of people or there's a lot of stuff going on and you go into the bathroom and it's that moment of quiet. You're in the bathroom, you're alone, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm on this earth. And those moments for me are so pivotal because it gives you that perspective of like, man, I'm tripping over emails when I shouldn't be tripping over emails. I got to go on that walk and go have a great time. I need to unplug on Sunday and spend time with my girl because, it's the love of my life. Why am I over here worried about like the kitchen isn't clean? It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So that perspective is so important. Otherwise, we get tied in all the stuff that just does not matter. Focus on what matters. Focus on what you care about. And know it's okay to change directions, but you're not going to know any of that if you don't take time to reflect, if you don't take those bathroom moments and say, what are we doing here? It's so easy to get taken by the current.
That's so good, man. That's so good. You all have gotten an incredible episode with Aaron Robles, CEO, founder, entrepreneur, prolific thinker, immigrant, overachiever, achiever. I really appreciate you for being here, man.
Oh, for sure, man.
Major gems, brother.
Yeah, we got to keep talking because, again, this is that energy exchange, man. I'm leaving this too,
Man, this is why I love podcasts. This is why I love podcasting because, and I've said this and I'll just continue to say it, 16-year-old, 17-year-old Kibwe in Gary, Indiana, walking to and from the bus, trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. I needed this. I needed it so bad and it was nowhere to be found. And so I had to keep pushing and keep trying and doing things to eventually get to where I am today. Yeah. And I don't think it's right for me to be here without paving a path, without leaving something else.
100%.
And so it is just so rewarding because this gets to be out for free, man. Right. This is a legacy that we get to leave to other people so that they can learn and start to develop and get better. And
that's what it takes, man.
Yeah. And for all those listening, make sure you share this with somebody. Sow a seed, whether it's sharing some information, whether it's sharing a podcast, something that inspired you. Sow a seed. Be an energetic symbol. Sow something. Don't just sit on great information. Do it. So, oh man. For all of you all who are listening, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to bring you another episode. Aaron, where can people find you? How can they engage with you? What's the newest stuff you're doing? What should they do next? Because at this point, I'm sure they're like, this guy. I gotta follow this guy.
Yeah, well, I am super accessible. I'm Aaron Robles on everything, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, I engage. I always tell people, look, man, if you reach out and you want some time with me, I'll give it to you because most people don't ask and most people aren't about it. But I'm always trying to share everything. Same thing with my company, Founder Spark. You can find us everywhere. And the biggest thing we have going on right now is our own show that has a podcast called Hearts of the Hustle. We just launched season 2, so we're in the making of that, but it's going to be on Spotify and Apple. It's live now. The first episode, we'll have episode 2 dropping soon, and then it's on Silver Birch Studios YouTube page. So they can find all of that on my profile. They can find all of that on Founder Spark. But whether you want to watch the interview or listen, it's very much on the same line of like what we're talking about. I'm interviewing people on like, hey, you built this. How did you build it? What were your failures and how did you get over that? And there's people who talk about their early traumas. There's people who talk about what their mindset was and how they had to fix it. So it's very much on the raw and honest side of like, this is entrepreneurship. It's messy and it doesn't look good, but you're not alone. And here's what they did. If they can cut and I can cut a few years of suffering from you and help you climb a little bit faster, that's what we're trying to do. So exactly what you're doing here, we're trying to do over there with the scope of entrepreneurship. So anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. Come connect, meet, listen, and don't feel alone.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, this is Aaron Robles. You guys can click the link in the show notes to follow the work that he's doing, connect with him. I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to write a review in the comments where you're listening to this episode, and I want you to say, thank you, Aaron. This was amazing.
Hey, man. Anytime.
Because it's awesome. So, all right, y'all, we're out of here. We'll see you again in another episode. Until then, I will talk to you. Peace. Thanks for listening to Empower You Podcast. Don't forget to rate and review this episode because we would love to hear your takeaways from this discussion. And it helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you'd like daily audio video clips from the podcast, you can find Empower You Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.